Welcome back. Let's talk security. But Kade joins me all the way from Taipei in Taiwan. Kade, good morning. Is it almost afternoon where you are? I'm not sure. So whichever it is, good morning from here.
Well, Jeffrey, good afternoon. May be in order because it's exactly 2:35. That's 25 minutes before 3 p.m. here in Taipei. Taipei, yes, indeed, as you said, is the economic, political, and education capital of Taiwan, the small island nation. And I'm just right here at the city's center reporting live. And Jeffrey, indeed, well, the local issues that affect Nigeria also have their own, well, will I call it the way they affect other nations as well in terms of security, energy, and the rest. And it's important to always learn from other countries. They learn from us as well and compare notes. But Jeffrey, it is quite hot here, I must say. The weather in Nigeria is actually cooler this afternoon. But yes, I am live in Taipei, as you said. And of course, we'll be doing this together today, Jeffrey.
All right, good to see that you are good. I can see that maybe they'll just bring something around you to wade off the heat. Maybe would have sent you to somewhere around Kano first up, or the northern part of Abuja to feel the heat. But let's bring in our guest, Kayode. Let's bring in our guest. Brigadier General Usman Sani is a former spokesperson of the Defense Headquarters. He joins us virtually. General, thank you so much for coming on the program. We also have joining us Dennis Amakri, former Deputy Director of the DSS, joining us from the States. Mr. Dennis, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. By the way, I was Director Army Public Relations, not for the defense.
Okay, Director Army Public Relations. So, Mr. Amakri, before I come to you, I'm happy we have DSS that represents intelligence and the men whose boots are always on the ground. General, what do you make of this? 5 soldiers dead, several civilians dead, and these insurgents? We know that our military forces, we must commend them. They've done a great job in repelling attacks, in taking out and neutralizing these very cowardly elements that are disrupting the polity time and again. But when you heard about these recent attacks and the fatalities that were recorded, what do you make of it from somebody who has been experienced on the field?
Yeah, first and foremost, let me start from the last question. My heart goes to the families of all those that lost their lives and to the good people of Borno State, as well as the armed forces of Nigeria and well-meaning people across the world over the unfortunate incident that happened at Dar el-Jamal in Borno State recently, in which we lost quite a number of civilians as well as 5 soldiers. Before you talk much about that, you need to look at the context under which such things have, or rather such incident had happened. If you look at it, the Borno State government is making concerted effort to dismantle the internally displaced person, given the fact that peace has returned to most part of the country, part of the state, given the concerted effort in the counter-insurgency, effort. And the simple reason is that, first, there is a happening, or rather there are happenings within the international or global geopolitics, in the sense that if you look at it, the United States is no longer giving aids and all the rest of the things, which to a large extent help in sustaining this internally displaced person. So you have to look inward, and pragmatically, the Borno State governor decided to do that. That is issue number 1. Secondly, the insurgents themselves, they are losing relevance in the sense that with this development, I remember recently the state government constructed over 5,000 houses, not using mud. They were using, modern, building materials and all the rest. So quite a number of people are not happy, not just necessarily the insurgents, because the IDP has become part of the war economy in which a lot of people are taking advantage. In fact, The insurgents themselves, leverage on the IDP to get information to sustain their family at the expense of the states. And beyond even the IDP, there were instances somebody who is not even married will claim to have 4 wives, and the Borno State Initiative, and such families, they have to give them starter packs and all the rest. So you look at it from that context. Now going back to Dar Jamal, people have been resettled, and of course over time the insurgents want to maintain relevance. Hence, they decided to disrupt the soldiers, by first going to the forward operation base, FOB, then attacking the people. And of course, the military had to do all that it could. Thankfully, the Nigerian Air Force also came, handy in dealing with those issues. So these are the circumstances that brought about the unfortunate happenings. And I think the next way forward is for people to understand that we cannot continue with this protracted conflict. Now, semblance of peace has been returned, so we have to support the Borno State government and the good people of Borno State to ensure that there is security in, this ancestral home where people will go about their businesses without let or hindrance. And those who are aiding and abetting this should stop. So basically, that is it. And honestly, there is nobody, unless the devil himself, that will be happy with what is happening.
Mr. Makri, let's bring the intelligence angle. The Brigadier General has spoken about some of the perspective. So I want to find out from you, this has become more like a recurrent decimal. Sometimes if it fades, we don't hear so much, and then at other times it comes. So when these people, quote and unquote, succeed in such level of attacks, because we know that when they want to make a bold, loud statement against the sovereignty of our state, they go this route. Big casualty numbers, with our security agencies becoming part of those casualties. Where do we talk, how do we manage the conversation around intelligence to be able to scale down on this? Because some people say there's a failure of intelligence. Some people say there's a poor implementation of the intelligence received. In fact, as a matter of fact, the Zamfara State governor the other day, I said, he knows where they are, he knows what to do, but is limited by powers. When you hear such things, you're a bit confused.
Thank you very much, Geoffrey. Like you said, the Zamfara State governor has come up with his own, that he knows where they are, he knows even their names. Now, that is serious intelligence. It's very, very serious intelligence. I will not say that there is serious intelligence failure because the security agencies and even the military themselves have been doing a whole bunch. What I'm seeing right now, is that the insurgents are, they are panicking because right now they are hitting back. The military has taken a toll on them. And then, of course, they are receiving, should I say, a disunity between them. Boko Haram and ISWAP are on a serious clash right now. And of course, that even advised that attack that they had, because they believe that the community people were actually spying on them for ISWAP. So we have all these dynamics going on, but we cannot lose focus, because actually what terrorists want to do is to make sure that, they destabilize the military and the security agencies.
Let me stay with you and just get a sense of whether you are surprised or not, because the Borno State governor had been saying this time and again. He had said that Boko Haram is taking over. He had given a lot of warnings months ago. Yes, we can speak about the recent comments by even the president himself, who talked about state police and all of that. But are you surprised that this attack happened? Because that serves as some sort of intelligence to that even everyday Nigerians saw this build up to this point?
Yes, I am not surprised. I'm not surprised at this because when you look at it, there is a process that happens at the war front that many people don't understand. The military is out there, pushing on the insurgents, and as they either eliminate them or dislodge them from any village that they are, the police is supposed to come and take over that area, and then, of course, maintain law and order. But what we discover here is that after the military has done their work, the security intelligence people have done their work and, attack and kill so many of them, and then they leave. People are displaced, and then these people will always be watching out where the military is and where the people are. And they discover that these villagers are vulnerable, they're unguarded, even the IDP camps, because I don't believe that they are really giving those IDP camps enough, security to make sure that they are safe, because it has become a recruiting ground for the insurgents. In fact, sometimes they attack it so that they can get food and other kinds of amenities. So these are some kind of structural adjustments that we have to do, and the police have to get involved, get more involved, because it is not just running around Yahoo boys in the cities. These empty spaces have to be occupied.
Indeed. Let me come to General Skillsman and just also get a sense of your thinking regarding what is next now. Because normally we'd hear condolences, would see visits and the rest, but it looks like we've not done something fundamental that we ought to do. We can talk about how security is handled in other countries. In the US, for example, the case is quite different. The people are saying, well, we want our military to only defend us from external threats, because we've seen President Donald Trump deploying the Ministry for Internal Issues. So they are saying, no, let military stay where it ought to be, what they signed up for, which is for external threats. But we have a very peculiar situation on our hands. I know people have said different things, but what are we missing critically for you, such that we are here time and again, and it looks like we take 2 steps forward and 10 steps backward, General?
There are quite a number of things, and if you want to put it in a nutshell, I think it's the issue of governance, either good or bad governance, simple and straightforward. However, when you want to dissect it further, you have to look at it in the sense that do we really give security of lives and properties in this country the necessary priority? Take, for instance, I'm so happy that Amakri has talked about the policing system, as it were. And the starting point is that anytime, anywhere, security challenges are predicated on 3 things: the political atmosphere, social and economic well-being of the society. To what extent has this been improved? Then what level of investment do we have in our policing system? Take, for instance, there is no country in the world, not even the Vatican, that does not have one form of policing system or other. Have we really repositioned our policing system to meet up with the challenges or the crime or the security challenges of the 21st century? That is one aspect. Then again, to what extent have we galvanized the Nigerian society, mobilized it, so that each and every one of us is on the same page when it comes to issues of national security or something that has to do with the existential threat to this country? It's against, the divisive tendencies and the politicization of security. Then most importantly, again, beyond the policing, what of the other components in the security architecture? The military, and of course, even the Nigerian society. Take, for instance, almost 65% of the total population or more of this country are youth. how much investment have we invested in, on the youth in this country, so that each and every one of them has a sense of belonging that will contribute and aspire. Because if you look at it, bulk of those people involved in, perpetrating of these criminal activities, be it insurgency, banditry, kidnapping, hardly you will see somebody who is more than 40 years old. So it is just between 18, more sometimes less than 18 years to 35. So how do we come to that? It's simply because we have not taken advantage of this God-given blessing, which is the human resources in this country, and channel it accordingly. Because if you look at all these non-state actors, they are just filling a vacuum. And it is not just in Nigeria. Is it Hezbollah? Is it Muslim Brotherhood? Or is it ISIS? They are filling a vacuum in the sense that there are certain things they explore grievances and fault line, and basically that is it. So if you are talking about, how did we come to that? This is it. But now the way forward is that definitely the answer is issue of good governance, giving Nigerians sense of belonging, and understanding that the issue of security is not just a whole society approach, it's a whole nation approach, in the sense that every component of the society, yes, there are people that are statutorily responsible, to secure our, territorial integrity, lives and properties, talking about the military, security agencies, intelligence community. But what of the other component? Look at the Constitution is silent about the roles of traditional rulers and other components of Nigerian society. The National Security Strategy 2019 made provision for, a coordinating center, and the fact that every Nigerian has a role to play. To what extent have we ensured that such Nigerians, are given that role? But of course, it is not just giving the responsibility. Have we really programmed Nigerians to live up to that responsibility in terms of giving them sense of belonging, improving their welfare, and not necessarily even that of the troops that on daily life, on daily basis, they sacrifice their lives and comfort for each and every one of us. So these are the issues. So we just have to say the truth and look at ourselves in the mirror and tell ourselves the truth and say, look, enough is enough. No more politicization of security issues. Everybody has to be brought on board, and let us all be on the same page, in the sense that anything that is happening in Borno has corresponding effect in Yenagoa and possibly in Birnin Kebbi and the rest of them. So unless we have that, and the leadership has that responsibility to coordinate and make sure that we are, on the same page when it comes to security issues.
All right. Let's take it to Mr. Makri. Mr. Makri has made a very important statement. Sometimes it's really difficult to find exactly what it is, but we use that word a lot. Maybe from an intelligence point of view, tell us, because we cannot separate that from what plays out in the polity. We've also noticed that politicians use insecurity as a means of instability to make a government look bad, and that doesn't have to do with, if we look back, way back, in fact, the current political party in charge was accused of bringing Boko Haram. Certain persons were mentioned. Well, they've all denied all of that. But we know that as we get close to election cycles, insecurity seems to, have a spike. So there looks like there's a correlation. So when you hear that politicization of security, what do you think it really means? And okay, from an intelligence point of view, for Nigerians who don't understand, what does that mean exactly?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. You see, the politicization of security is a misnomer, because it brings a problem that cannot be well solved. Politics is separate from security. Security is the protection of lives and property of the citizens. Meanwhile, politics is politics, as we know it. But in Nigeria, we've come to discover that politicians, use security to achieve their aims by either directing the security agencies, or, using them against maybe their political opponents and stuff like that. And that's the reason why we still don't have state police right now. Because many people have kicked against it to say that, oh, if we have state police, the governors are going to use it against, their opponents. But that is not to be, because the security people or law enforcement, for instance, is supposed to have a set of rules. They are enforcing the laws of Nigeria, not the laws of APC or the laws of the president or the laws of anybody. They are supposed to enforce the law of Nigeria. And that's where, if they do that, then everybody falls under the rule of law. And then, of course, it should be equal justice under the law. But when it is skewed, and the reason it is skewed is because politicians use it all the time. And you can find out structurally there's a problem. The structure here is that the DSS itself, the police, even the military, are all reporting to the president directly. They are not independent. So you can imagine if the president himself has, infringed on any of the laws, they cannot arrest their boss. So you also see that if we look back in history, there are other, even in the United States here, where Nixon was, he committed a felony by using illegal wiretaps. And the FBI told him, either resign or we'll come and arrest you. And he resigned. That cannot happen in Nigeria because all this Department of State Services, Department of the Presidency, so they are not independent. And if we make them independent, then they can now carry out the objective or the national interest at heart.
General, let's come back to you on this. Has to do with the people. When we hear of deaths, especially if you hear killings in Plateau and Benue, in Borno, Zamfara, I think Katsina, some of the very hot spots that we deal with, sometimes you feel like if there's of course, what's in the military terms, the professionals called balance of terror in that sense, which is what the Republicans advocate for when they say, according to, I think, the Second Amendment, they are permitted to bear arms, because if you know you're coming to somebody's house and the person has a gun, you have to think twice. It's a 50-50 chance that you will survive, because you're coming to hurt, you could be hurt, or you could hurt the person. Isn't it time, besides state police, we begin to think differently about some of these very areas where the people are most vulnerable, to think of a way? I don't know, I'm trying to be careful here. Is it arming them for them to bear arms? Because they are helpless, they become easy target. Let's take it to Brigadier General. Would that be too much to ask, Brigadier General, before I come back to you, Mr. Macri?
Well, I think this your question is 2 days behind schedule, because we have passed that stage. I happen to come from one of the frontline states, and of course frontline local governments in Katsina State. So I know this is a daily occurrence, the kidnappings and abduction, killings and what have you. Already the people themselves are beginning to realize that it's not as if they lack confidence in the government or the security agencies. Self-preservation is the first law of nature. So people have started being proactive, because there is no point. You have a wife, children, parents, and possibly grandparents, and somebody will come and pick you up like a chicken. And of course, you will demand for a ransom that he has never had in the history of your family. So the best thing is to see how best you can organize and secure yourself. And I had warned some time back when Arewa Consultative Forum had its inaugural, Board of Trustees meeting, that we are gradually turning into a Sudan, in the sense that people purchase arms just like they purchase granite on the street or in the market. And unfortunately, the implication of it is quite grievous, and it has started happening. Certain ethnic group will not enter certain, communities, and so on and so forth. But these are necessities. So, but the most important thing is, how do we mitigate the situation? Is to ensure that we maintain concerted efforts and onslaught against these criminal elements. Let us reach a point that even if we are thinking of dialogue, will be at advantage position as against allowing people, to bear arms, and of course also going into negotiation, with these criminal elements on the terms that are not favorable to them. So that is it. Then, of course, there are issues of good governance, like I told you, especially infrastructural development and, in fact, education, because an idle mind is the devil's workshop. To a large extent, bulk of these people that are involved, they are not even aware of the fact that they are doing the wrong thing, because to them it's more or less like a self-righteousness entitlement. Because I have had clips of negotiation. An average kidnapper look at himself as a victim, not even as a criminal element. And of course we know it. The greatest undoing in this country is issue of justice, especially the criminal justice system. There should be a kind of form of reward and punishment. Those that are found culpable, the law should take appropriate measures against them without let or hindrance. And of course, Mr. Amakri has alluded to the fact we have to understand the peculiarity of the Nigerian society, in the sense that, yes, the security apparatus are part and parcel of the government, particularly being controlled by the executive. And that is why issue of constitutional amendment should come into play, because anytime you are dealing with policy issues, the starting point is the legal framework. Let's even look at the police system in the first place. Now, we are talking about police, state police. Now, what happened to the constitutional provision where we have police council, where the president, commander-in-chief, is the chairman, and all the state governors and some others are also members of that police council? Within the last 26 years of our democratic experience, how many times has that council sat? Now, you look at the force headquarters, then you look at the Police Service Commission, you have the police Ministry of Police Affairs, and the Police Endowment Fund. So these are the kind of duplication of efforts and all the rest, and we can do better in the sense that we can streamline this thing and have a fair understanding and safeguard, so that these people that are responsible for the safety of lives and property are doing it professionally without interference from any government agent or entity.
My sincere apologies, General. Totally out of time, but almost thank you so much. Mr. Amakri, in just 10 seconds, should we be thinking of bearing arms for our citizens in vulnerable areas? Just 30 seconds, please.
I think that bearing arms, bearing guns is not just an easy thing like buying banana. You must know how to operate that weapon. Otherwise, you might even kill yourself. So, if people are going to bear arms, yes, under license. I will agree that they bear arms under license. Government should give license to those people, and they should be trained to handle it to protect themselves.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for bringing your expertise. Dennis Amakri is a former Deputy Director of the DSS. Brigadier General Usman Sani is a former spokesperson of the Army. Thank you so much for your expertise. We appreciate you both. Thank you.
Thank you so much.